Hey everybody, Comic Crack. I was doing a bunch of catching up and reading tonight, and just kind of felt the desire to talk about a few books. Let's have a look. So, the first one I read, had some catching up to do on Aether from Matt Kint and David Rubin. Issue 5 ends the kind of first chapter or first arc or whatever. I don't know if they're on a bit of a hiatus. But I really love this book. This is a fantastic book. I really like the way this first 5 issues kind of revealed itself to us. I really dig this final issue, getting that last bit of touches with what the Aether is, and getting a little bit of history from our main character. It's a beautiful book to look at. The layouts are very cool as well. They're not always kind of square, but they're not going as kind of abstract as a J.H. Williams kind of thing. You're still getting some very discernible frames and stuff, but just interesting shapes, and the coloring is incredible as well. But if you don't know Aether, highly recommended picking this one up. It's a really good read. Probably out of the stuff that I'm randomly picking up, one of my favorites for sure. This has been a long time coming. Been a fan of Hadrian's Wall since the first issue. I was taken by it right away. Liked the premise. Really dug the art a lot in this one. You know me with my kind of limited series stuff. That's what I really like about some of this. I like that it's a full story arc in 8 issues. I can't go every week to pick up comics. I just can't do it. So I end up missing out on a lot when it comes to longer storylines. So granted, this one took me a lot longer to read through than maybe when it came out in the shops. But it's kind of a nice way, just collecting a couple of the issues and reading a few at a time. This kind of murder mystery in space, sort of. I mentioned it on Twitter as well too, and I think I mentioned it before when I was talking about this book. Little uncomfortable reading the back matter with the writer, so I generally don't. I think I glanced through it in this one just more to see what his next plans were. This Cowl, I guess he did a series called Cowl that I didn't read, which maybe I'll look into, because I really dug this. The only thing I would say about issue 8 is that I kind of wish it would have ended a few pages earlier. I thought that would been a little more of a powerful ending. There was just a nice a little too nice tying of loose ends right at the very end. Does it spoil the series? No, not at all. The series is still fantastic. It's just that a few pages earlier for the ending would have been great, albeit a little bit bleak. I just watched the 2 newest Alien movies, Covenant and what's the other one? I don't remember. On the plane coming back from Orlando. The bleakness that can happen in sci-fi, specifically in those 2 movies I found anyway, there was this real forget about like details of the story which maybe weren't that good, and there was parts of both that I wasn't really crazy about, but there was this kind of underlying, just, I guess, a noir element to sci-fi. This kind of bleakness of humanity and our place within the cosmos or whatever. I appreciate that about it. This obviously didn't go to that extent, but if it would have ended on that, I just thought that would have really tied in nicely with the kind of, if you start looking at a grand scheme of things, if you start looking outside yourself, some of the things, especially what he was dealing with, or this couple was dealing with with an ending like that would have really kind of put that in perspective. One of the things that sci-fi can do, and some, for me, some of that really good storytelling in that genre can do, is really give you a bit of perspective on your place within the solar system, which is pretty fucking minuscule, pretty fucking meaningless. I'm not saying this to be a bummer. Obviously, I've got a pretty good outlook on life, but I admit that I do like some of those stories. It's why I like disaster movies and stuff that kind of puts us in our place as humanity. Of like, listen, you may think you're all that, but at the end of the day, if a bunch of this bad shit happened, you wouldn't stand a chance, and anything you've done wouldn't really matter. So that idea of them holding on to this kind of negativity up until the very end, and then finally letting it go, and that kind of realization, I thought would have been a much more powerful ending. Anyway, I'd still recommend it. Still go and hunt it down. It's worth it, even though it did take that kind of turn away from the mystery at around issue, I guess that was probably 5, where we introduced a whole bunch of new characters. I found that a little jarring and maybe a bit unnecessary. Sure, it kind of led the mystery element a little further. Again, it didn't spoil it for me. I really liked it. Here we go with... Here's Altars. So, another book that I kind of liked right off the hop. My superhero kind of reading, especially modern books, has really just fallen by the wayside. There's not much new superhero-wise that I keep up with or really want to keep up with. And again, anytime I talk about this kind of stuff, that's always barring the stuff that I read with my son. We still do like that stuff, even though we don't go every single week. I try to keep up on a couple of the books for us. So, taking that premise and applying it to kind of this universe where these altars are revealing themselves to the world, and our main character can see them before even some of them know that they're altars as well. Our main character, who is a transgendered individual transitioning to a woman, and how that plays in her life, personal life, at home. Sorry, I'm really shaking the camera there. And how it kind of ties into the superhero genre a little bit. I find interesting enough to keep me reading. There was times in this issue, but there was a few times in issue number 5 that really got to me, where the writing really got to me. And it wasn't so much the story itself, it was the interactions between some of the characters, some of the way that they were talking to each other. It didn't seem natural. And not only that, some of the dialogue, the implication of the dialogue didn't match the images. Yeah, there's one technique that they use in this when it comes to the lettering. I always read it internally. The text all of a sudden gets really small. I always read it as they're talking really softly to one another, or really quietly, or even whispering. And then when you get the regular text, that's kind of just a regular voice. One thing I do also notice in this one is the use of the big bold. Actually, that was in Hadrian's Wall even more so. The big bold words. There's some books you get where every time I see a big bold word, I just really read a huge emphasis. If I was hearing somebody talking, it would be like they were always emphasizing every other word, and it just really fucking aggravates me. In Hadrian's Wall, I find that they use that really well. They don't use it very much, and when they do, it seems a little more natural. It's similar here with the way they use some of the text, and again, how the letterer can really have an impact on a book. That said, though, there was a scene in this one where the idea that they were having in this one kind of fight scene, the idea that they were all of a sudden having a little moment with each other, seemed a tad bit out of place, which is funny because now as I'm saying it out loud, it sort of doesn't feel out of place. Maybe that was better than I originally thought. Just kind of coming to that now, I guess. But like I said, sometimes the interactions between the characters don't match the image on the page, and plus they just feel a little sloppy. They don't feel polished. It doesn't feel like natural conversation, and far be it from me to tell anybody how to write natural conversation. In the limited writing that I've done, that was always the thing that hung me up, was how to get a natural sounding conversation. I'd put something down on a page and it would just seem so fucking unnatural that I would literally cringe and just get rid of the pages. I just couldn't get much further than that. I think that's a skill that I don't even know. I don't even know what to say about it. So I was kind of turned off a little bit after reading issue number 5, but I had issue 6 here, so I dove into it. What an amazing difference a colorist can make, and so much so that for the first couple of pages I thought it was an entirely different artistic team, but it's not. It's the same artist, different colorist. The changes to the characters, they feel a little more not quite cartoony, not quite. They feel a little more rounded in this new issue. So issue number 5 is the end of the first arc. Issue number 6 is beginning our new one. We're getting introduced to another character, to a brand new character who's a mother of 2, and they're poor. They are dirt poor, like $2.50 in the bank kind of thing. The mother has some powers which we're starting to get a little bit of a taste of. I don't want to tell you too much, but I might keep going with it again because there's something about this book that I really do like, and I notice in the back pages, seeing some of the books that's coming from Aftershock. There's a few I wouldn't mind trying out actually. Yeah, I just don't know what it is. It just feels, there's something I really like about it, even though there's some things that I really shouldn't like about it. I am digging it. Am I digging it enough to tell you to run out and get it? No. If you maybe saw the first trade in the library, give it a shot. But I wouldn't even throw this at somebody as like buying the first trade. It's a library rental for sure. Hadrian's Wall, I'd say go out and get it to give it a read. Aether, jump on it. I mean, it's only 5 issues in. There's still plenty of time to catch up before the next arc starts. I just have a really good feeling about this book that it's going to go to territory that is just going to be really rewarding, both story and art-wise. Okay, that's it. I've kind of sorted through some books today, getting ready for the big convention that happens next weekend, and decided to spend the evening doing some reading. I've got a big stack by my bed, so as I kind of read through some more, maybe I'll try to do some of these shorter review videos. Thanks very much for watching, everybody, and we'll talk to you.